Dallas races met first and third Sunday, 8 p.m., W5FC. This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9.
everyone. This is Virginia in V5F, and I'll be the net control for Skynet in a few minutes. So if you need to jump on the repeater and do any last-minute comms before we start the net, do so now, and we will start Skynet at 9 p.m. This is Virginia in V5F.
Ham Fixins Net, first and third Monday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Good evening, everyone. This is in D5F. My name is Virginia, and I will be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? Okay, nothing heard. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for this evening's links. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Look for tonight's announcement and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in the old-fashioned way via the voice RF, we will continue to do that too, of course, over the air and Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts, including general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, National Space Society events, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening, was up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages, and astronomical Q&A if we have time, and a 73 round if time permits. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people checked in via w5fc.org. We have NT5TM Tony in Bird City. We have KE5ICX Tom in Corpus Christi. We have K5MCD Cody in Dallas. We have me in D5F Virginia, somewhere near 40 Eridani A. We have KF5JHA Bob the Cat and Chaz on Animal Planet. We have N5BV Bill in good old Irving. We have AA5AH Robert in Richardson, WB5OZL Brenda in Dallas. We have W5BLT Bill in Garland. So now let's start with regular voice check-ins, starting with short time check-ins. If you're short time or low power and you'd like to check into Skynet, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, nothing heard there. So please come now if you are in general RF check-ins. If you would like to check in now via RF, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB4MFI, Ted Dallas, low power.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
This is Kilo India 5, Zulu, Oscar Echo, Tommy from Balch Springs.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob, Farmers Branch.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James to North Carrollton.
This is Kilo November 5, Echo, 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 Al from Allen, Texas.
Okay, that's a pretty nice little group. So far, the net recognizes WB4 MFI Ted in Dallas, W5GUS Gus in Dallas, KF5ZBL Bill in Farmers Branch, KI5ZOE Tommy in Balch Springs, KG5UFR Jacob in Farmers Branch, KG5WVL, and that is James in Carrollton, and KN5 Echo, 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 Allen, Allen. So it's a nice little group of RF check-ins. And now let's go for Echolink check-ins. If you are on Echolink and you would like to join us for Skynet, please come now with your call sign, name, and location. All right, nothing heard for Echolink. I apologize, I am not logged on to Echolink this evening. So if you're lurking on there and you want to get on the list, please come at a later time when I ask for check-ins. I will definitely do so more than once. Again, my name is Virginia. My call sign's NV5F, and you're listening to Skynet. Okay, let's see what's going on. Oh, here we go, round 4. Anybody and everybody, free-for-all check-ins on Echolink, All-Star Link, which I didn't mention earlier, but you guys can come at the same time as Echolink. On air, however you like, please come now. Call sign, name, and location. Okay, and since it's a free-for-all, I am checking the spreadsheet, and we have added in 5OS, Clay in Mesquite. So, Clay, thank you for joining us online, and let's get to the net. All right, first announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or general interest to licensed hams. Please come now with your call sign if you have some announcements.
Kilo India 5, Juliet Charlie Mike, KI5 JCM, Thomas and Eagles.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Okay, looks like we've got 2, so let's go first with Thomas, KI5JCM. What is your announcement?
Sorry, I have no announcement. I was just checking in. Must not have been listening close enough. Back to that.
Okay, that's all right. I will put you down for general check-ins, and we'll go with Tony, NT5TM. Please come with your usual announcements.
Thank you, Virginia. Tonight's Afterglow movie discussion will focus on the movie Transit from 2018, in which a German invasion of France is set in the present day. This Monday we'll have one of our favorite club nets, Ham Fixin's The Second Helping. So if you're up to anything in the kitchen lately, share the news with us, and we'll get hungry while we listen to you. That's this Monday at 7. And finally, I want to let everyone know that the lecture and lab information for our September 27th antenna build has been posted at W5FC.org. Please check it out. We'll be building a UHF Yagi for amateur radio satellite or fox hunting work, and thanks to generous donations from Net Control in Rollin, W85RFG, the cost for materials will be only $10. So it should be a lot of fun. We'll try to have at least 20 kits ready. NT 5 p.m. back to Net.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Excellent. I always love the lecture and lab, and I've seen the prototype antenna for that. It looks great. So that should be a good one and a great price. All right. We also have some more announcements about regular nets here. The AMSAT, Radio Amateur Satellite Group, has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central, you can check into the National AMSAT net, learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. You will need Echolink installed to join this net and get registered on Echolink. You can find the net under Groups and Star AMSAT Star. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, www.amsatnet.com. And this net actually originates in Houston, Texas. There's also 2 local nets available online in the available on the air in Dallas. Both of these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as the others who are checked in. First is the AMSAT Net East, Dallas, Fort Worth. It's every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL tone 110.9. Tuesdays, Tom in 5HYP is the usual net control, and all are welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT Net East that night. The Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL tone 110.9, positive offset. And the AMSAT Net has been running on this repeater in Arlington for many, many years. So it's kind of similar to the Tuesday night version, but it's just a different night. So join in the fun on Wednesday nights at 9. The DARC also hosts a number of nets throughout the week. The best way to find these nets is to go on W5FC.org and find the tab that describes nets. We have nets of some type every night. If you count the traffic net, the local ARRL traffic net, early net every evening here at 6:30 p.m. But many weeknights there is some other kind of cool net. Coming up this Monday, as Tony said, is going to be Ham Fixin's second helping at 7 o'clock. Okay. Let me get past the long old list of nets. And I don't describe them all just for interest of time. Skynet's gotten to be where we've got a lot going on. So just go on W5FC.org to find the list of nets. There's a bunch of them, including tonight's nets, the night of nets. All right, now it's time. Speaking of nets, there's a net after this one at 10:30. It's called the Afterglow Movie Net, and we need to get the info on that. So let's see if Tom, our correspondent in Corpus Christi, KE5ICX, would like to give us tonight's Afterglow info. Take it away, Tom.
Well, thank you, Virginia, and thanks for doing the net this evening. Here it is, my highly accurate synopsis of tonight's movie. George walked the streets of Paris in fear. It was the first week after Labor Day, and he did the worst thing possible, wear white pants and matching white shoes out in public. Ever since the invasion by the fashion police, there was no place to hide, no place to wear comfortable clothes. These people meant business. And where else but Paris, the pinnacle of their power, could they effectively enforce excellent dress standards? George knew things were getting worse for him. He looked like a beacon of fashion ineptitude. Knowing this, he pushed his way through a Carnival cruise line of poorly dressed American tourists heading back to their ship. He had hopes of blending in. The fashion police nonetheless saw him and immediately gave choice. Join us for this unusual but critically acclaimed reimaging of World War II in the contemporary Paris, well, actually Marseille, but tonight at 10:30 p.m. I just finished it here about an hour and a half ago. Not bad. It's all in German, by the way. Just thought I'd let you know. We didn't know that until we started watching it, but there are subtitles, so if you want to watch and do Skynet at the same time, you could potentially do it. Got good reviews. Back to you, Virginia, KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you so much, Tom. And yes, if you want to read a movie, this is the one for you. Okay, let me check for some more check-ins here on the big sheet. Looks like we're all up to date there. Are there any more check-ins on any mode before I continue? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location to check into Skynet. Alrighty, well, on we go then. Next we have Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. And that is our correspondent in the out there on Animal Planet, Chaz, KF5JHA.
Well, thank you. You know, cats adopt people. People don't adopt cats, so I guess I'm on Animal Planet. Bob the cat is sleeping on the couch. He's not too far away from the radio or the computer, so he could pounce on either one at a moment's notice. Yes, this is Animal Planet. Oh, on September the 26th, 2025 is the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is going to be Matt Penn. The topic is going to be citizen science experiments that happened during the solar eclipse. Wow. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas hosts Saturday night public observing sessions in the Dallas area. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing session. Now, on the second Saturday of the month, the stargazing is held at Frisco. That would be tonight. Although it looks pretty cloudy, let's see. Do we have any ham radio operators at the stargazing that would like to make a report? Please come now. What's your call sign? Well, unless they were probably on their phone on Echolink, I didn't think there would be a report because it's kind of a far distance from the repeater to get to hear from the Frisco area. You can check the TASS website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing events. Well, I guess we're back to our net control. Virginia, it's all backed up to you. This is KF5JHA.
Okay, thank you, Chaz. And this is Virginia in D5S, and you're listening to Skynet. And I don't have a cat, but there is a feral cat that hasn't adopted me, but he's adopted my yard. He likes it back there. Okay, next we have Bill in 5BB with National Space Society events and activities. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Virginia. This is N5BB, and I have no cats. I'm just here in my little National Space Society world. I've been listening to William Shatner's Space Truckin'. If you need to get it in the space mood, just do a web search and listen to Space Truckin', Captain James Kirk, William Shatner. Okay. I am the Vice President and Membership Director of the National Space Society North Texas Chapter. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S., which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local NSS chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. Meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The last chapter meeting on August 10th was a virtual presentation by Dr. Rosalie Lopez of NASA JPL, who discussed the Cassini-Huygens space probe, which investigated Saturn's moon Titan. Our meetings are also available virtually. Contact Bill N5 Bravo Bravo if you'd like to attend. Our next meeting will be tomorrow, Sunday, September the 14th. And our presentation will be Mars Exploration, Past, Present, and Future. Everything about what humans are doing on Mars. This is N5BB. This is Skynet. On the last Friday evening of each month, at 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas Chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. Location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. Anyone's welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. The next Space Rendezvous will be held on Friday evening, September 26th. The United States Mint opened sales for rolls and bags containing the fourth and final American Innovation Texas $1 coin of 2025 in early August. The reverse or tail design of the coins honors the innovation of mission control at the Johnson Space Center in Texas, in Houston. It has an astronaut in a spacesuit near the International Space Station. They are legal tender, but they're not released through normal circulation. You have to order them from the U.S. Mint. I did so please contact me if you'd like one of these coins. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, N5BB, at his QRZ listed email address or at space@byrum.net. space@byrum.net. And that's all I've got this evening. I'm going to go back and listen to some more Space Truckin'. This is N5BB. Back to Ned.
All right, thanks, Bill, and keep on trucking. And Bill did give me one of those space coins. It's pretty neato. So get one if you can. It's really cool. All right, next we have recent astronomical discoveries with Brenda, WB50ZL.
This is WB5OZL. Give me just a second, please. Apologies, I lost my place and wandered around. This article is from Science Daily. It's entitled, Scientists Just Built a Detector That Could Finally Catch Dark Matter. I can't wait to have my very own dark matter. It's so exciting. About 80% of the universe's mass is thought to consist of dark matter. And yet, little is known about the composition and structure of the particles that make up dark matter, presenting physicists with some fundamental questions. To explore this elusive matter, researchers are attempting to capture photons or light particles, which are produced when dark matter particles collide with the visible matter we are familiar with. Most experiments to date have focused on dark matter particles with masses that more or less overlap with those of known elementary particles. If the particles are lighter than an electron, however, it is unlikely that they would be detectable with the current standard, namely detectors based on liquid xenon. So far, no experiment has succeeded in directly detecting dark matter. Yet, this in itself is an important finding, as it shows that dark matter particles do not exist within the mass range and interaction strength tested. An international team led by Laura Bottas, Titus Newport, Bjorn Penning, and Andreas Echolink from UCH's Department of Physics has now been able to probe the existence of dark matter particles across a wide mass range below 1 mega-electron volt, that's MeV, using an improved superconducting nanowire single photon detector, SNSPD. The researchers reached a sensitive threshold of about 1/10 the mass of an electron, above which dark matter particles are highly unlikely to exist. This is the first time we've been able to search for dark matter particles in such a low mass range made possible by new detector technology, says First Aura Laura Bottas. Going to reset. In a 2022 proof of concept, the researchers had tested the first SNSPD device as highly sensitive to lower energy photons. When a photon strikes the nanowire, it heats it up slightly and causes it to instantly lose its superconductivity. The wire briefly becomes a regular conductor, and the resulting increase in electrical resistance can be measured. For their latest experiment, the UCH scientists optimized their SNSPD for dark matter detection. In particular, they equipped it with superconducting microwires instead of nanowires to maximize its cross-section. They also gave it a thin planar geometry that makes it highly sensitive to changes in direction. Scientists assume that the Earth passes through a wind of dark matter particles, and the particles' direction therefore shifts over the course of the year depending on relative velocity. A device capable of picking up directional changes can help to filter out non-dark matter events. Further technological improvements to the SNSPD could enable us to detect signals from dark matter particles with even smaller masses. We also want to deploy the system underground where it will be better shielded from other sources of radiation, Titus Newport says. Below the mass range of electrons, current models to describe dark matter face considerable astrophysical and cosmological constraints. That's it. Back to net. This is WB5OZL, and excuse my voice. I've had a cold.
Okay, thank you, Brenda, and appreciate the news on advanced astrophysics. Those are things I'll have to go back and read for myself. That's a lot. It's pretty amazing. All right. Now, because I'm the net control, my name is Virginia, my call sign's NV5F, and you're listening to Skynet. I get to pick the discussion topic of the evening, and I have an article that I produced myself. It's called 40 Eridani A, Science Fiction's Rising Star. I will cite several websites that helped me out with this before I begin. Constellation-guide.com, glyphweb.com, universetoday.com, and iflscience.com. Those are four websites whose articles that I did use to help me put this together. All right, well, tonight you're in for a treat because I'm going to be Mini Chaz. After all, I have this net and the friends I've made here, including Chaz and others, to thank for my knowledge of, growing interest in, and attention to astronomy. I have many friends I also have my friends in the Afterglow movie group, many of whom are the same people, to thank for my parallel and growing knowledge of science fiction. I've loved sci-fi to some degree, space history and astronomy as well since childhood. So this little article is a tribute to the fun and learning I've experienced and the general growth on several levels, including astronomy and science fiction, on many a Saturday evening for the past several years here on Skynet, and then later in the evening on the Afterglow. All right, so here we go. 40 Eridani is a triple star system in the constellation Eridanus, the river. Now, this is a constellation which you'll probably not hear about on Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, simply because it's one of the group of constellations visible primarily in the southern hemisphere. It would be partially visible below latitude 32 degrees in the winter and is one of the largest constellations in the sky. It represents the celestial river that runs from the white giant star Cursa, also known as Beta Eridani. This is the footstool of Orion, near Rigel, which is one of the stars in Orion, and it goes all the way to Acamar, or Alpha Eridani, in the far southern sky. Acamar is the constellation's brightest star, and it's also the ninth brightest star in the sky. Now, in this little description of Eridanus, you might, if you're a Star Trek fan, you might have recognized references to actual stars such as Rigel and Acamar, both of which are referred to in various episodes of the popular sci-fi Star Trek sci-fi universe. In fact, Star Trek and numerous other well-known science fiction series and books make reference to existing star systems with varying degrees of accuracy, while the fictitious planets and aliens which live on them in these real star systems have little bearing on really sound theory based on any available data. Of course, this is partially because up until recently there hasn't been a whole lot of data or detailed information to work with. Well, the 40 Eridani system is a real star system. It's also known as Omicron squared Eridani, or CAID, or if you prefer, catalog number HD 26965. CAID itself is the primary component of this triple star system and is referred to as 40 Eridani A, which is the subject of this presentation. However, it's hard to talk about a star without talking about all of its relatives. 40 Eridani A is an orange dwarf located at a distance of 16.26 light years from the Sun. This is orbited by a white dwarf 40 Eridani b, which is the first white dwarf ever discovered, and a red dwarf with a period of about 8,000 years at an approximate distance of 400 astronomical units. These components, 40 Eridani b and c, also complete an orbit around a common center of mass every 230.3 years, and they're separated by about 35 astronomical units. All three of these stars are smaller, less massive, and less luminous than the Sun, but they're in a pretty complicated little triple star system. K/40 Eridani A has a mass of 0.84 solar masses and a radius of 0.81 solar radii, with a surface temperature of 5,300 Kelvin. It shines with a 0.457 solar luminosities, and the star's estimated age is 5.6 billion years. So, what makes this little old star so important? Well, in the Star Trek universe, 40 Eridani A is the home system of Mr. Spock and all the Vulcans, beginning with the Star Trek movie series. In the original series, Vulcan was located in the Alnitak system in the constellation Orion. Its location was changed to 40 Eridani A by author James Blish in the novelization of Star Trek II. Since 40 Eridani A is an orange dwarf, which is also the home star system of the planet Raichis in the Dune series, one can understand the perennially red-orange sky of Vulcan as it appears in Star Trek III and IV, as well as subsequent episodes of various Star Trek series. The planet Vulcan itself was fictional, however, the star it orbits is very real, and in several online catalogs, the star itself is given Vulcan as an alternate name. But that's not the end of this story. In 2015, a new light science fiction novel called We Are Legion, We Are Bob was published by Dennis E. Taylor. This nostalgic romp, which takes place mostly in the first half of the 22nd century, verges on the absurdism of Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series, but is contrasted with an overarching foundation in astronomy, computer science, and relativistic physics. As of 2024, there were 5 books in this series, now known as the Bobiverse. In the first book, a software mogul, Robert Bob Johansson, signs up to have his brain cryogenically frozen so that he may be preserved after his death for possible revival in 50 or so years after his death when the technology is available. This plot itself is one pretty common to science fiction and is even featured in a first-season episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. Bob himself happens to be a science fiction fan and is hit by a car while crossing a Las Vegas street outside the venue at a favorite science fiction convention. He awakes in the year 2031, having been revived, when the contents of his brain are uploaded into a computer matrix. Due to his intelligence and aptitude, it's determined that Bob will become the brain of an interstellar probe, which will seek out a possible new world for what is left of America to colonize, hopefully before the geopolitical situation on Earth deteriorates further. In the process of Bob's exploration, I, a Gen Xer sci-fi fan, was delighted by tons of references to my favorite science fiction and pop culture memories. And without giving too much away, just let me say, how could a science fiction fan who has had his brain implanted into an interstellar ship which travels at near light speed resist traveling to Mr. Spock's home star to scout out the possibilities? In the book, Bob refers to the system as Omicron squared Eridani, but when he mentioned it as the home system of Vulcan, I looked this up and instantly found that this is one of the alternate names of the system, 40 Eridani. In Bob's story, he discovers 2 planets circling the orange dwarf and names them Vulcan and Romulus. What else would he name them? Oh, but wait, there's more. In 2018, a planet was discovered apparently orbiting 40 Eridani A. with a period of 42.378 days. The planet did not lie in the habitable zone. It was much closer to the star, orbiting at a distance of 0.224 astronomical units. It had a mass of 8.47 times that of Earth and was one of the nearest super-Earths known. The planet was discovered with the Doppler spectroscopy method, where the spectra of stars are monitored for signs of wobble, where the star is found to be moving towards and away from Earth. This movement is presumably caused by the presence of planets, which exert a gravitational influence on their respective suns. The planet, technically known as 40 Eridani AB, was quickly nicknamed Vulcan, even though it was in no way suited to even Vulcan life. Sorry, Mr. Spock. But in 2021, Andy Weir, author of the 2015 best-selling novel The Martian, published a new book entitled Project Hail Mary, wherein Ryland Grace, a school teacher from Earth who has a doctorate in microbiology, is sent on an epic mission to help save Earth from a mysterious blight which is destroying stars in our local part of the Milky Way. In his quest, he travels 12 light years away to Tau Ceti and joins forces with a fellow scientist from where? 40 Eridani AB. Needless to say, an intelligent alien from a super-Earth which cannot support water-based life makes an extremely interesting character, and that's all I'll say. Despite the wealth of Gen X pop culture and sci-fi references in Project Hail Mary, some of which might possibly have been inspired by the Bobaverse books, in my personal opinion, Weir never mentions Vulcan. He names the planet Erid. However, I can't believe he didn't know what planet he was choosing for his story, which I enjoyed immensely and can enthusiastically recommend. It was, in fact, Project Hail Mary which made me follow the road to Eridanus and look up 40 Eridani in the first place. And what an immense and intricate treasure I have found. Unfortunately, since 2021, the existence of the planet 40 Eridani AB has been called into question. Further studies show that the wobbling between red and blue shift in the star spectrum was not caused by a planet's gravity, but rather by 40 Eridani A's own rotational cycle, which is very close to the period of around 42 days proposed for the planet, this planet, which was nicknamed Vulcan. So there goes the real Vulcan, as well as the scientific basis for the planet Erid. Oh well, it is still possible that 40 Eridani does have a planet or two further out, which have not yet been detected, perhaps in the habitable zone. So just maybe James Blish and Dennis E. Parker are right after all. Only time and astronomy will tell. So there's my fun topic for this evening. I hope it will inspire further study of this interesting star system and maybe some interest in these cool science fiction things which I've discovered recently. I've been enjoying them very much. Does anyone have any questions or comments for tonight's presentation? Please come now with your call sign.
AD5ICX.
All right, Tom, what have you got?
Yeah, one of the regular features with Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, when Miss Carolyn was doing the constellations, was she did, and this is before you, but she would bring up all of the science fiction references for whatever the constellation was and the stars that were within it, which was always a lot of fun because she enjoyed that as much as doing the constellation itself. Just thought I'd mention that. KD5, ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Well, that makes this even more of a tribute to her, as well as an attempt to fill the big shoes of Chaz for a little while. So that's very cool. I'm rather moved by that. Maybe we can get more. Maybe we can get more of this kind of stuff going. I like to do these sorts of things. So maybe I'll see if I can do more of these kinds of presentations in the future. And speaking of Chaz, It is time for What's Up. So, once again, I'm Virginia in D5S. You're listening to Skynet, and it is time for What's Up. We're talking about what's visible in the daytime and nighttime skies with Chaz, KF5JH8.
Good evening once again, everyone. Au contraire, net control. We do cover Eridani at the end of December. In fact, it was December the 28th, the last time we covered Eridani and Fornax the furnace. So, yep, we covered Epsilon Eridani and Alpha Eridani, which is also called Achenar. So, didn't cover 41. Oh, well, maybe I'll have to include that next time. But thank you so much. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. But right now we're not going to do the Constellation. We're going to call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. We've talked about the predicted nova of star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness around 10th magnitude, just checked it a little bit ago, which is much too faint to be able to see with just your 2 eyes. T Corona Borealis was supposed to go nova more than a year ago. Now, new predictions are November 10th of this year or June 25th of next year. Now, when it does go nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star, which is 2nd magnitude. I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from my very light-polluted location here in Mesquite. And it's Slide Master, slide number 4, please. Now, if you're watching the video version of Skynet, slide 4 is talking about, the sun. And this is an image from spaceweather.com. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are at times so large that you can use just your solar eclipse glasses to see them. In fact, last week there was one that was very close to being able to see it. If you had excellent eyesight, you could usually just use your solar eclipse glasses and see the sunspot. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not quite sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. Now, I've talked about the solar cycle about 5 months ago on Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 5, please. Almost a week ago, on September the 7th, was the full moon, so the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. Third quarter moon is tomorrow on September the 14th. New moon is on September the 21st. On September the 26th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 405,548 kilometers. First quarter moon is on September the 29th. October the 6th is full moon. On October the 8th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 369,819 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 6. This will be a rapid-fire overview of what's coming up. So on September the 16th, there is a conjunction of the moon, Jupiter, and Pollux in the eastern morning sky. If you haven't been watching the early morning sky, I have been because I've been out walking. It's beautiful watching the dance of the planets. Of course, about a month ago, Jupiter and Venus were very close together. Slide Master, slide number 7. On September the 19th, there's a conjunction of the moon and Venus and Regulus that's visible in the eastern morning sky. Slide Master, slide number 8. On September 26th, at 1:19 p.m. Central Daylight Time, the autumnal equinox happens for the northern hemisphere. Everywhere on the Earth has 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness that day. Also, the sun rises east and sets west everywhere on the Earth on that day. Nope, doesn't rise directly east or set directly west every day, but on 2 different days during the year, and September 22nd will be one of them. That'll happen. Slide Master, slide number 9, please. On September 23rd, there's a conjunction of the moon and the star Spica in the evening sky. You'll probably need binoculars to be able to see it because it's in strong twilight to be able to see the moon. But to find Spica, you'll probably need a pair of binoculars. Slide master slide number 10 on September the 24th, the conjunction of the moon and Mars in the western evening sky. Slide master slide number 11 on September 27th is the peak of the daytime 6-inch meteor shower with an unknown number of meters per hour. Now, how do you observe daytime meteors? Believe it or not, you find them using radio. Wow. How do you find out more information about how to observe meteors with radio? We can get detailed information of how to observe meteors and meteor showers by visiting the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Slide number 12. On September 27th is the conjunction of the moon and the star Antares in the southwestern evening sky. Antares is visible right now in the evening sky over there in the southwest. Slide master slide number 13. October the 2nd is the conjunction of Mercury and Spica in the western evening sky. Now binoculars again will be needed to pull them both out of the strong twilight. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master slide number 14. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question, or maybe you need a fill on some of the information, or maybe you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Okay, so as the moon wanes and as the river flows south, so do these words of this segment of Skynet: stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. Until next time, actually, I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA Chaz, and this is Skynet, transmitting on the W5FC repeater at 146.88 megahertz. Back to our net control.
Okay, thank you, Chaz, and I stand corrected. I will listen for Eridani in December and look forward to it. I'll probably pay a little closer attention this time, which, as I should. Okay, next we have space exploration and space history with Gus, W5GUS from Net Control NV5S. Take it away, Gus.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. W5GUS here. Got a couple interesting things. Space exploration news. First one is headline: NASA says Mars rover discovered potential biosignature last year. Sample collected by NASA's Perseverance Mars rover from an ancient dry riverbed in Jezero crater could contain evidence of ancient microbial life. Taken from a rock named Chayeva Falls last year, the sample, called Sapphire Canyon, contains potential biosignatures, according to a paper published Wednesday in the journal Nature. A potential biosignature is a substance or structure that might have a biological origin but requires more data or further study before a conclusion can be reached about the absence or presence of life. This finding is the closest we have ever come to discovering life on Mars. The identification of a potential biosignature on the red planet is a groundbreaking discovery and one that will advance our understanding of Mars, said acting NASA Administrator Sean Duffy. Perseverance came upon Chayeva Falls in July of 24 while exploring the Bright Angel Formation, which is a set of rocky outcrops on the northern and southern edges of Nevrita Vallis, an ancient river valley measuring a quarter-mile wide that was carved by water rushing into Jezero crater long ago. Okay, quote, "This finding is a direct result of NASA's effort to strategically plan, develop, and execute a mission able to deliver exactly this type of science, the identification of a potential biosignature on Mars," said Nikki Fox, Associate Administrator of NASA's headquarters in Washington. And she also said, with the publication of this peer-reviewed result, NASA makes this data available to the wider science community for further study to confirm or refute its biological potential. All right, next headline, new quasi-moon discovered in Earth orbit may have been hiding there for decades. Okay, a new paper describes another possible quasi-moon of Earth, and the interloping asteroid may have been following our planet around undetected for decades. What are quasi-moons? Well, the Planetary Society states they are like a gravitational sleight of hand. They are asteroids which, from our point of view on Earth, appear to be orbiting our planet like our permanent moon does. However, they actually orbit the sun, only temporarily moving through the solar system alongside our planet. If the status of the newly detected asteroid called 2025 PN7 is confirmed, it would not be the only object seemingly behaving as a moon of Earth. There are 7 other known quasi-moons in Earth-like orbits, and they are full of surprises, said the study's co-author from the University of Madrid. Of these quasi-moons, 2025 PN7 is the smallest and least stable known quasi-satellite of Earth, he said. The newly discovered asteroid is only 62 feet wide, slightly smaller than the meteor that exploded over Russia in 2013. The asteroid is officially classified as having a brightness of magnitude 26, meaning it is visible only through good telescopes. So why didn't astronomers notice 2025 PN7 before now? They say it is small, faint, and visibility windows from Earth are rather unfavorable. So it's not surprising that it went unnoticed for this long. Okay, we'll move on to space-related birthdays for September 7th through the 13th. All right, first up, on September 7, 1939, David Griggs was born, STS-51. He was on STS-51 Delta. Next, on September 9th, in 1952, Lee Morin, he was on STS-110. Let's see, September 10th, 1948, Charles Simoni. He was on Soyuz TM-A, TM-9, Soyuz TM-14 and 13. On September 10th, 1945, Mike Mullane, September 10th, 1945, he was on STS-41, STS-27, STS-36. Okay, September 11th, 9/11, 1937, Robert Crippen was born, STS-1, STS-7, STS-41, STS-41 Golf. And let's see, Randolph Bresnik was born on September 11th, 1967. He was on STS-129, Soyuz, MS-05, and Expedition 5253. Okay, September 12, 1966, Anousheh Ansari. September 12, 1966, he was born, he was on TMA Soyuz, TMA 9 and 8. September 12, 1940, Roger K. Crouch, STS-83, STS-94. September 14th, 1950, Eugene Trin, STS-50, 50. Okay, last birthday this week is John Harrington, September 14th, in 1958. He was on STS-113. Okay, let's move to space week in space history. All right, this is a pretty famous name here. Van Allen. American astrophysicist James Van Allen was born September 7th, 1914. He was a pioneer in early space exploration. For the International Geophysical Year of 1957-58, he proposed several ideas for experiments conducted by satellites. The year was an international collective. This was an international collective project designed to promote progress in the geophysical sciences, during which both American and Soviet scientists developed proposals for satellites. Unfortunately, Van Allen's proposals were initially ignored by the U.S. after the Soviet Union launched Sputnik. However, Van Allen's proposals to launch an American satellite were quickly approved, and Explorer 1, the first U.S. satellite, was launched in January 1958, just 4 months after the launch of Sputnik. And thanks to data collected by Explorer 1 and later Explorer 3, scientists were able to confirm the existence of a zone of radiation held by the Earth's magnetic field, which were then named the Van Allen belts. By the way, that massive solar storm from May 2024, you might remember, didn't just bring us incredible auroras, it created a brand new temporary Van Allen radiation belt. NASA's CIRBE CubeSat discovered this new belt sandwiched between the inner and outer Van Allen belts. Okay, we'll go into some space history now. A couple stories. On September 12, 1966, the launch of Gemini 11. Gemini 11 was the 9th crewed spaceflight mission of NASA's Project Gemini, which flew from December 12th to the 15th, 1966. It was the 17th crewed American flight and the 25th spaceflight to that time, which includes the X-15 flights over 100 kilometers. Astronauts Charles Pete Conrad Jr. and Richard F. Gordon performed the first direct ascent, first orbit rendezvous with an Agena target vehicle, docking with it 1 hour and 34 minutes after launch. They used the Agena rocket engine to achieve a record high apogee Earth orbit and created a small amount of artificial gravity by spinning the two spacecraft connected by a tether. Gordon also performed 2 extravehicular activities for a total of 2 hours and 41 minutes. Okay, we'll move on to September 9th. This will be the last story on this segment. September 9, 1982, the first launch of the new Conestoga 1 rocket, consisting of the core missile stage and a 500-kilogram dummy load, which included 40 gallons of water. The payload was successfully ejected at 313 kilometers, and the Conestoga 1 became the first privately funded rocket to reach space. This is September 9, 1982. The Conestoga was a launch vehicle designed, funded by Space Services Incorporated of America of Houston, Texas. Conestoga originally consisted of a surplus Minuteman stage with additional strap-on boosters as required for larger payload. It was the world's first privately funded commercial rocket, but was launched only 3 times between 1981 and 1995 before the program was shut down. Let's see. In September 9, 1975, Viking 2 was launched to Mars. Using a Titan Centaur launch vehicle and a 333-day cruise to Mars, the Viking 2 orbiter began returning global images of Mars prior to orbit insertion. The lander, which touched down on Mars Utopia Planeta region nearly a year later, remained operational until April 1980. The Viking program consisted of a pair of identical American space probes, Viking 1 and Viking 2, both launched in 1975 and landed on Mars in 1976. The mission effort began in 1968 and was managed by the NASA Langley Research Center. Each spacecraft was composed of 2 main parts: an orbiter spacecraft, which photographed the surface of Mars from orbit, and a lander, which studied the planet from the surface. The orbiters also served as communication relays for the landers once they touched down. Okay, and with that, we'll move on to the next portion of the Skynet, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So back to Net Control, W5GUS.
Okay, thanks a lot, Gus. Appreciate it. And I would like to recognize the Net has been joined by 2 more check-ins, KJ5HTL Hassan in Flower Mount, and K9AHO Brian in Terrell via the website. If you would like to check in any mode, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location to join us on Skynet. All right, and now it is time again for Chaz with Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. This is Net Control ND5F.
Thank you, Virginia. Slide number 16, please. Let's see now, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 till May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. Actually, I've increased that because I do sometimes 2 constellations in a week, so I've got nearly 70 of the 88 constellations that I'm covering. But in her honor, we continue the tradition of a constellation or 2 per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's constellations this week is Delphinus the Dolphin and Equuleus the Horse. Okay, Equuleus, the constellation lies in the northern sky Its name means little horse or foal in Latin. Equuleus is the second smallest constellation in the night sky, after Crux, the Southern Cross. It only occupies 72 square degrees. Equuleus, the little horse or the foal, lies between its big brother Pegasus and Delphinus, the Dolphin. I've been able to see Delphinus easily inside the city, even though it's a dim constellation. Most historians agree that Ptolemy first wrote about the constellation of Equuleus back in the 2nd century. Delphinus represents the dolphin sent by the sea god Poseidon to find Eridani, whom he wanted to marry. Delphinus is the 69th constellation in size, occupying an area of 189 square degrees. The constellation also is sometimes referred to as Job's coffin because it's long square-like shape. Mostly the name is restricted to the 4 stars of the constellation, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta, Delphinii. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 17, the jokes of the week. Yes, instead of the science fiction aspect, I add jokes in here. Miss Killen, I don't think, did that. So what do you call a horse that likes to stay up all night? It would be a nightmare. What did the mother horse say to her foal at the end of the day? It's pasture bedtime. What kind of food do racehorses like to eat? Well, fast food, of course. My buddy has been really depressed since his pet dolphin ran away. His life has had no purpose. I know, they're not the same. Why are dolphins so successful at dating? They're always clicking with one another. If you haven't heard the sound of dolphins, you don't get that one. Dolphins give the worst directions. They're always asked them to be more specific. And this is KF5JHA. Slide Master, slide number 18. The star Kit Alpha, or Alpha Equuleus, is the spectroscopic binary star of spectral type G03. It has a visual magnitude of 3.92 and is approximately 186 light years distance from us. It is the brightest star in Equuleus. It is about 75 times more luminous than our sun and is about 2.72 times the mass of our sun. Gamma Equuleus is also known as 5 Equuleus, is also a double star. It belongs to the spectral type A9. It has a visual magnitude of 4.7 and 118 light years in distance. Epsilon Equuleus is another multiple star system in Equuleus that consists of 4 components. It has a visual magnitude of 5.3 and 196 light years in distance from our sun. Oh my, we're talking about a bunch of stars. How about our Equuleus? R is a Myra-class variable star. It is an M-class red giant star. It varies in magnitude from 8.7 to 15th magnitude, which is much too faint to be able to see. 8.7 is not visible to the naked eye, but it has a period of 260 days. It's one of the many variables that are monitored by members of the AAVSO, which is the American Association of Variable Star Observers. Ms. Killen was an avid observer of variable stars for a long time, so just wanted to recognize that. Slide Master, slide number 19. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog 7015, is a galaxy with a visual magnitude of 12.4, which is not very bright. It is 2 by 1.8 minutes in size and about 212 million light years in distance. It is a face-on spiral galaxy that shines at a dim magnitude of 12.4, about 12.4, 12.5. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 20. Alpha Delphini is the brightest star in the constellation. It has a combined apparent magnitude of 3.77. It is a multiple star consisting of 7 different components: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Physical pair, and B, C, D, E, and F, which are optical binaries. Wow. Beta Delphini was discovered to be a binary star in 1873 by American astronomer Burnham. The system is about 1.8 billion years old. It consists of a pair of stars belonging to the spectral class F53 and F54, a giant and a subgiant, approximately 101 light years in distance. Gamma Delphini is another binary star, which is about 101 light years in distance. The primary component is the yellow-white dwarf with spectral type F75, and a companion star that's an orange subgiant with spectral type K14. The stars have magnitude 5.14 and 4.27, respectively. Struve 2725 is another star, a separated double star that's very near Gamma Delphini. It can fit in the same eyepiece field of view. They're only about 14.5 arc minutes apart, with about a width of the first full moon. Slide Master, slide number 21. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog, 6934, is a relatively large globular cluster near the star Epsilon Delphini. It's approximately 50,000 light years in distance, has a visual magnitude of 8.83. You can see in binoculars. Slide Master, slide number 22. NGC 7006 is a globular cluster located approximately 137,000 light years away in the outskirts of the Milky Way. Slide Master, slide number 23. The Blue Flash Nebula, NGC 6905, is a small planetary nebula, bluish in color. It can be observed in 6-inch telescopes. And slide Master, slide number 24. It's called French 1, or the Toadstool. It's an asterism on the Astronomical League Open Cluster Club list. The group of stars has the name Toadstool by Sue French, the writer of Deep Sky Wonders column in Sky and Telescope magazine. Her earliest mention of this was in print in Small Scope Sampler column in the October of 2002 issue. The article includes a nice finder's chart with close-up views and also mentions unit Tropia Star Atlas, and even labels it as the French 1. Wow, she's famous. This is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 25. Now there's a few more Astronomical League Observing Program objects in the constellations of Delphinus, the Dolphin, and Equuleus, the Horse. I've given you just a sampling of some of those names. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 96 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. So if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide Master, slide number 26, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellations of the Week, Delphinus, the Dolphin, and Equuleus, the Horse. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchison and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website, same one that Virginia uses, Constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next week, we'll take a look at Capricorn, the sea goat. A sea goat? Yeah, we'll talk about that then. This is KF5JJ saying good night, 73, and back to our net control.
All right, thanks, Chaz, for some fabulous constellations and some really bad jokes. Appreciate it very much. Wouldn't be the same without those. All right, this is Virginia, ND5F, your net control for Skynet. And now let's see if Tom, KU5I6CX, would like to finish us up with space launches and satellite passages for this week. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Virginia. This is KE5ICX. First segment, space launches for this work come from spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. You get the same information. Virtually all these launches are available on streaming services, usually YouTube, so you can watch each and every one of them if you'd like. September 14th, tomorrow, has a launch of a Falcon 9 of the NG-23. This is the SpaceX Falcon 9 launch. We'll launch the Cygnus XL spacecraft from Northrop Grumman on a resupply mission to the International Space Station. This will be the 22nd launch of a Cygnus spacecraft and the first launch of the Cygnus XL, which is capable of carrying 1,250 kilograms more cargo than the previous version of the Cygnus aircraft. The spacecraft is named the SS Willie C. McCool, nearly 8 minutes after liftoff the Falcon 9 first stage booster. Tail number of Bravo 1094, making its fourth flight, will make a landing attempt at landing zone 2 at Cape Canaveral. On September 17th, Falcon 9 Starlink 17-12. This will launch from Vandenberg, SLC-4E, out in California. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch 24 Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. About 8 minutes later, you can watch the landing of the first stage booster. September 18th, Falcon 9 Starlink 10-61. This one launches from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. This will be the launch of 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. 8 minutes later, you can watch the first stage booster land. That's B1092, by the way, if you're keeping score. September 21st, Falcon 9 Starlink 10-27 mission. This one from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites go into Earth orbit. The first stage will land about 8 minutes later, Bravo 1085, for the 11th time, and will target landing on the drone ship A Shortfall Gravitas positioned in the Atlantic Ocean. September 21st, we'll see a launch of Falcon 9 for NROL 48. This is from Vandenberg. The rocket will launch the NROL 48 mission for the National Reconnaissance Office. The flight will be the 11th mission supporting the agency's proliferated architecture, a constellation believed to consist of Star Shield satellites. SpaceX will use the Falcon 9 booster, tail number B1081, which will launch for the 18th time. 18 minutes later, it will land at landing zone 4. September 23rd, Falcon 9 will launch IMAP. IMAP will launch from Launch Complex 39A from Kennedy Space Center. Rideshare mission carrying 2 spacecraft for NASA and 1 for National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. The first one, NASA's Interstellar Mapping and Acceleration Probe, or IMAP, will use its 10 science experiments to study the boundary of the Sun's heliosphere. Along with a ride are NASA's Carruthers Geocorona Observatory, designed to observe the ultralight from the Earth's geocorona, NOAA's Space Weather Follow-on Language, or SWIFO L1, which will monitor the Sun for key space weather activity. All 3 spacecraft will be sent to Lagrange Point L1, which is about 1.5 million kilometers from Earth and is a potential position in between the Earth and the Sun. All right, I'm going to skip these last 2 and move on to visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. Now, I must say the International Space Station does not have any favorable passes this week, so we're going to go directly to the other space station currently in orbit, the Chinese one called Tiangong. That one has several passes that look pretty good. As soon as it pops up, it looks like my internet is running a wee bit slow tonight. I'm not sure what's going on here. Anytime this year, I'm waiting, and I got a blank page. I know the dates, I just can't bring up the information. September 17th, 18th, 19th, and I still don't have anything. Let me try something here real quick. It's usually not this slow, but it got very slow this evening. Well, that's a new one on me. I've never seen it stay blank this long before. Maybe there's a problem with the website. That's happened in the past, but never for this long. Okay, well, I guess, what time is it? 10:27. I guess I'll turn it back to you, Virginia. I can't give you any satellite passes because the little whirligig is still whirligigging. So back to you, KE5, ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom, and everybody who wants to find out about satellite passages, just go to www.heavens-above.com. You can find everything that Tom was trying to tell you on that website. Hopefully the website will work. If you go, it's actually a pretty good website. Thank you so much for all that information, and Lord, with all that stuff being launched into space and all the satellites, it's a wonder there's any space left in space. Okay, do we have any final check-ins for Skynet before we finish up this evening? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, nothing heard. Well, according to the courtesy tone, HAL 9000 did check in while I was talking. So join him and me and Tom and a bunch of us other movie bands on the Afterglow.
I'm completely operational, so all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Okay.
Afterglow movie.
Tonight we had 20 hams participating on the air this evening for Skynet. Thank you all who checked in with us this evening. We hope that you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration on this net. The sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of our net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow our topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is ND5F. My name is Virginia, and I will be closing this net at 10:30 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use for a few minutes before Afterglow 73 every night, and enjoy this evening discovering the universe. This is your net control, ND5F, clear.
And this is KE5ICX. We will begin the Afterglow movie net in about 5 minutes. You have that amount of time to microwave yourself some popcorn and be ready to discuss tonight's movies, a German film called Transit from 2018. So come on back in about 5 minutes and we'll get the net started. This is KE5ICX.
Sorry about that, NT5P.
Okie dokie, it's been about 5 minutes, so time to get the Afterglow Movie Net going. The following film, tonight's movie, is called Transit from 2018, not to be confused with another movie called Transit, which is some sort of, I don't know, dramatic action thriller. This one is not, sorry about that, kids, but it is an interesting film of sorts. Let me tell you a little bit about it. It's called Transit, 2018 German drama film written and directed by Christian Petzold, based on Anna Siger's 1944 novel of the same name and adapted to be set in the present. It follows a refugee who impersonates a dead writer in an attempt to flee a fascist state. The film was critical success and was selected to compete in the Golden Bear in a main competition section of the 68th Berlin International Film Festival. Plot goes like this. George, a German political refugee, barely escapes arrest in occupied present-day France, Paris. He attempts to deliver a letter to a famous writer named Franz Vidal, but discovers that Vidal has killed himself in a hotel room. He takes Vidal's last manuscripts and identity documents, which promise him safe harbor to Mexico. He attempts to flee to Marseille via train with his injured friend Heinz, but Heinz dies en route. In Marseille, he brings news of Heinz's death to his wife Melissa and his son Driss, who live in the city illegally. George befriends Driss. When George attempts to turn in Vidal's papers to the Mexican consulate, played by the American consulate for some inexplicable reason, he is taken for Vidal and impersonates him, and is given transit visas for himself and Vidal's wife, Marie. He learns that Marie has left Vidal, but wishes to reunite with him and has been waiting in Marseille so they can flee together. Driss has an asthma attack, and George fetches the doctor, Richard, to care for him. George meets the doctor's mistress, who he learns is Marie. Richard wishes to flee, but is consumed by guilt over abandoning Marie. Everybody writing this down, you may need lines and pictures for this one because it does get confusing. However, when George offers her a transit visa, Richard goes ahead and tries to board a departing ship, but is forced to give it the spot for French soldiers. George and Marie develop a romantic relationship. He comes close to telling her about her husband's death, but he is unable to do so because she so adamantly believes him to be alive. He learns that Melissa and Driss have fled and witnesses the suicide of a fellow refugee he had known as an acquaintance. George and Marie hail a taxi to the harbor to board their ship to Montreal, but George exits claiming he has forgotten something. He goes to Richard and tells him his place on the ship, while recounting his story to a bartender to whom he entrusts vitals of manuscripts. He sees a woman who looks like Marie, but she disappears. He goes to the port to confirm that she has boarded the ship, but is told that the Montreal hit a mine and sank with no survivors. He returns to the bar where he waits for Marie as the French police start sweeping the city to purge it of its refugees. The end. And with that, Kafka-esque ending, the movie closes with the only English in the entire film, song with English singing. So there you have it. Didn't recognize the song, however. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I will ask for check-ins. Please come with your call sign name. And did you see tonight's movie? If you didn't, that's okay. We can talk about World War II stuff. Boy, have I got it for you tonight. And with your call sign, your name. Did you see tonight's movie, Transit, from 2018?
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Yes, I saw this movie.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony in Dallas. I have not seen the movie, but I will be listening to see if other people liked it.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia. I have not seen the movie.
K9AHO, Brian and Terrell. I have not seen the movie. I tried to start it, but got distracted. I'll be listening to see if everyone liked it too. K9AHO.
WB5OZL, this is Brenda, and I did see this movie.
Okay, we have N5DD Bill. I think he's over in Irving. He said, yeah, he saw the film. NT5TM Tony in Dallas. He said, no, he didn't see the movie. ND5F Virginia Jason Fort Worth. No, she did not see the film. K9AHO Brian Terrell. No, he did not see the film. Brenda WE50ZL. Yes, she saw the film. Anyone else want to check in? Please come now.
Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, W5BLT, Bill. I read reviews and I've stayed at a Holiday Inn. So yeah, I guess I kind of saw the movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sir Oscar Kilo, Sean Fort Worth. No, I did not see this movie.
All right, we picked up two more. We got W5FC Bill. He sort of saw the movie, and yes, I understand. You were under a lot of constraints while trying to view this film. And AB9SOK Sean in Fort Worth, no, he did not see the film. Anyone else before we get started? Okay, well, I have to confess, one of the things that surprised me about this film, it was over on Plex, PLEX, which is kind of an interesting streaming platform that integrates your local stuff through software that they have with their stuff that they license and stream with advertising. And I did not realize that they did foreign films and don't make a big deal about it. So blame me. When we picked this film, it had it's all German, as you could tell because of the Berlin Film Festival thing that went on. I think that probably gave you an inkling. It did have subtitles, but it was all in German and French. There was some French in there as well. So, but we did get subtitles. Well, if you can read the subtitles, you're good to go, but not everybody could read the subtitles, nor do a lot of people like to read subtitles. So, fault me, this was not my choice. We have done subtitle movies before, but relatively rarely. So, I hope you had a chance to watch it. I will tell you, it was a somewhat complex relationship between characters. I really needed to put a little thing together, to program together to show who was with whom, but or at least taken some copious notes to keep it all straight, so I may get confused myself. But we're going to go ahead and soldier on. At least three of us did see the film, and we'll give you our best guess as to what we saw. Okay, well, starting at the top, Bill got in there first. He did say and admit that he saw the film. That would be N5BB. So our first round is talking about plot, and that's exactly what we'll do. Bill, what do you think? From KE5 ICX.
Oh, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. I feel sorry for Bill, W5BLT, if he tried to look at it, since unless he knew both German and French because of the subtitles. So parts of it were a little hard to follow because the plot was rather twisted. This is like a plot that keeps on twisting around, and you don't really follow exactly what's going to, you can't guess what's going to happen, I'll tell you that. You really can't. Tom, there was a recent film we saw a couple weeks ago that I told you I thought was the most depressing film I'd ever seen. This was also an extremely depressing film. We have more than one person committing suicide. We have people who don't really know what they're going to do with their life. They're despondent. It's pretty depressing. You know, you don't want to see this when you're in a bad mood, in a depressed mood, because it would just drive you under. We have our one protagonist, George, who makes it through the movie, but you don't know what he's going to do at the end of the movie. It's not really clear. There's that crazy idea of hiking across the Pyrenees or something, I guess, to get out of France, occupied France. But some other things kind of weird about the plot. This is N5BB. Of course, the movie was written like in 1944 as France was occupied and everything. This movie was set in the near present. However, there's some things that aren't super modern. Don't remember anybody with a cell phone. I don't think there were any in it. There were, nobody seemed to have picture IDs. They just had papers, and they had somebody else's name. Well, maybe you could still use them. So a number of things about it were kind of strange. It was like the plot from 1944, but they just filmed it with modern cars and other things, because everything else pretty much in it existed back in 1944. They were just old cars back then. But the ships existed, people went places on ships, and the hotel rooms would look similar, and the restaurants, drinking wine there. Everything would have essentially been the same, except the cars. I don't remember seeing any computers. People had paperwork, no cell phones that I could remember seeing. So it's kind of an interesting movie. It's kind of like an alternate universe. It's kind of like an alternate universe where 1944 just kind of got moved up to the near present, but nothing changed since then. This is Inside BB, which is very strange. So in some ways, this is a little bit of a science fantasy movie, or a fantasy movie, not science fantasy. It's just a fantasy movie because of that. But it just made it appear kind of strange. The ambiance of it was kind of weird. I don't remember anybody seeing a television. So again, he had a radio, and by the way, he was something amateur radio related. George was a radio technician, and we saw him fix a radio. He heated up some solder and fixed that bad connection to the transformer. So anyway, that's talking about the plot. That was kind of strange. The plot, of course, was rather convoluted, and you had these multiple threads of George with his good friend that had a bad infection and died on the train. And then that friend's widow, she didn't know she was a widow until he appeared, she was mute, could not speak or hear, and her son in that relationship, which was rather poignant because George got kind of connected with the son until the son found he was leaving. And then we have Marie, the writer's that committed suicide, his wife, that writer's wife, and she was living with the doctor that kind of helped her get out of somewhere, and them trying to leave, and she trying to find her husband. So it's an understandable story, but you have to keep track of it because there's multiple threads, and you got to keep track of who is who. You then have the woman with the two dogs who is very despondent and commits suicide over the railing. So I warn the people that haven't seen it, although there's not, I would say, it isn't really a graphic, movie. There is a lot of death in it, and it's, rather depressing because of the bad things that are happening to people inside BB. Let's see. It was interesting seeing the consul the American and the Mexican consul, and the other people doing their job, and the barkeeper, who is the narrator. So anyway, I don't know. You have to like plots like this. This is not a clean plot that you can go in and just understand what's happening, and it's straightforward. It's not that kind of movie. But if you like these kind of convoluted movies with plots that are making you think about loss and, you know, the bad things that happened during World War II and everything, and refugees in general, then it's a very interesting plot. Did I like the movie? I'm glad I saw it. Don't know if I'd see it again. I might wait a few years and see it again. I wouldn't see it again soon, because I know how depressing it would make me feel. But might see it sometime in the distant future. But I think it was a good movie. Let's put it that way. That's all I got for now. In fact, BB.
All right, very good. Thank you, Bill. Thank you for your descriptions, too. That helps a little bit because it is somewhat convoluted and the character associations are a bit bizarre and somewhat coincidental in strange ways. Okay, let's see. Tony did not see it. Virginia did not see it. She didn't want to read the movie. I understand. Brian did not see it, but I may come back to you and ask you about something, your favorite World War II movie. How about that? That might be something to discuss. So the next person on the list who did see the movie would be Brenda, WD5OZL. Brenda, I have a feeling you're not a big fan of this film. We had a little bit of discussion today about it, but go ahead. Tell us what you think about it, at least from the plot standpoint.
Yeah, this is WD5OZL. Well, it was very depressing. It was kind of interesting. I could follow it, sort of, except in the end, you don't really know what happened, and that always annoys me. In coincidences, just happens to stumble upon this woman who is the widow of the guy whose papers he's carrying around. And I mean, all the gin joints in all the world. So that was there were just all these coincidences in this that you know, people knew each other. There were a lot of suicides. I didn't like that. And the wartime was horrible anyway. It's got to be horrible to be a refugee, leave your home, and be on the run from the Germans. So it was kind of poignant, I think. That's all the bad stuff that happened to everybody. Nobody really found any satisfaction or love or fulfillment. It was full of a bunch of frustration and failed relationships and failed plans. And you just kind of felt bad for the poor guy. You kept rooting for him and then just couldn't seem to pull anything together. Let's see, plot holes. Yeah, there were a few, but you know, what doesn't have plot holes? All right, back to net, WB5OZL.
Okay, well, that was kind of quick, but okay, let's see. Everybody else is kind of a no. I could ask Bill for W5BLT, but Bill, do you know any major give me any major German or French so that you can tell us about the story, because you're going to need those two things to even discuss this at this point.
Well, I'll give it a go, only knowing English. But I did watch the interview with the director, and I thought it was fascinating. And I did have AI write a little review for me. And I think the plot is kind of tangled, because life in a situation like this in the storyline, lives are tangled up and things are uprooted. And if you're going through it, it doesn't make sense. One of the interesting things that the interview pointed out, the reason that there are no cell phones is the director's son said, "Dad, don't put in cell phones because then it would date the movie." So it was kind of ambiguous. I don't know if that's the right word, but you kind of had shadows of the past and the present here, or what could be the future, and with the characters, very tragic. The director got the idea for a movie. One of his friends he was traveling with challenged him to read 2 books, and he kind of admitted he wasn't a real big, heavy book reader, but he read the books over the weekend, and then decided to do a movie kind of based on the book from, I think it was 1942, and I just forgot the author's name, but so he kind of had a philosophy of not going back to read the book, just kind of wrote it from what he remembered from the book and ideas. But his friend that challenged him to read the book died. They were going to have a scene of people being, I think, machine gunned, like they did in World War II in Paris at the beginning of the movie, but then there were terrorist attacks, so they couldn't do that scene. They decided, not to do it, but also the authorities wouldn't let them do it after the real-life terrorist attacks. So the plot is tangled, and I think the other Bill was right. You do have to really follow it based on what I read and a lot of the reviews I watched online. And is it one of those that you want to just go run right out and see every weekend? Probably not. But a lot of this stuff has happened throughout history, and I think they tried to capture that in this film, and kind of as a warning. So that's what I've got. After doing my homework with AI and online reviews. W5DLT. Back to you, Tom.
All right, thank you, Bill. And that actually is pretty good. Thank you for doing the homework so you could participate. I know you're at a disadvantage to all this, but that was all very good information, and that kind of leads into some of the things I wanted to talk about the film. And first off, just the whole feeling of the film and how it played out was quite mesmerizing. I found it rather interesting. Visually, it was an interesting film. I think emotionally, while you had the subtitles, but you can glean from it the kind of the emotion that went along with it. It was very intense and quite interesting. I think our character was quite fascinating through all of this, but I'll describe that in a minute. Some of the things about the film and doing it in present day, I'm pretty sure this was done from an expense standpoint. I don't think anybody would believe that this was would be present day per se. If you're familiar with World War II and its basic elements, you would just simply say it was produced as a storyline. They've done this with Shakespeare quite frequently. They've placed his stories in all different time frames, but pretty much left the dialogue identical and the reaction and actions identical, because the way people think and act remain the same, regardless of the technology, regardless of the situations or the time periods. They're all pretty much follow a standard format and a challenge response. And I mean that's how people act, as being human, and that's what you're doing, is telling human stories. One of the things that I think is interesting, and it brought up, and I'll do a science fiction bend on this, as it kind of has that element to it when you consider, say, the old Battlestar Galactica series. If you remember, that series was in 1977. It had 1977 technology. Bill can tell you all about the Tektronix computers and all the bulky equipment that appeared in it, even though it's supposed to be either very far in the future or very far in the past, but it was supposed to be advanced technology. Well, as things went on, when they re-imaged the series, they pretty much did the same thing. They just kept that technology and said that's to be expected because this was an old ship. In fact, everything on board the ship was, actually a lot of it was World War II Army military gear that they had done up a little bit. So, and everything was done with wired telephones, and communications was very much voice, and there was some digital stuff, but it was minimal. It was very similar to what they had in the original series. Did it affect it? Did you think that it was less authentic? I mean, it looked more authentic with the old stuff in the new series than it did in the old series. That kind of, but it didn't matter because the story was still the same. We were on an aircraft carrier, and Star Trek, same thing. They battleship, and you look at Strange New Worlds, which is a fallback before the original series from 1966, and they've updated everything, but in reality, they still do the same things. They got the bulky equipment sitting around, the 3D, the big CRT monitors still appear on the tables and that. Does it matter? No, not at all. And I think that this and putting in a cell phone is really going to be difficult, because that's going to change how the story develops and how it plays out. In fact, he goes and he's there changing out the papers and putting his own pictures in so that he can get the heck out of Marseille. I also noticed, Bill, with you that he had, if you looked, a lot of the clothes, it looked like they were from World War II era or from an earlier time period. And as you mentioned, and as I just put into play in this round as well, is that we still use all those same things. I agree. So you just keep the things that are consistent and plot consistent with the story. It didn't bother me in the least. I thought it was fine. And it did create this alternate world, which was really kind of intriguing in a way, because it makes it Kafka-esque as well when you're telling the story. What are we watching? And also, the story is being told, our narrator happens to be the barkeep who's heard the story, and he remembers what he remembers. So that further distances ourselves from the believability and more of the impressionistic of watching. So I thought that was pretty interesting and pretty cool in the end. In the end. Now to the story. I thought the happenstance in the characters and how they're interacted is complicated, and it is difficult, and I'm going to have a heck of a time trying to keep straight all that stuff, because I really need a program with everybody's lines drawn to who's related to who and how. But our character, George, is our main character, and he's the guy going through the purgatory. He's the one that is leaving. He's a political political refugee on the run, and he ends up assuming the role as well as the personality of another of this author. And he actually acts in a way and provides a bridge to these other characters and hope to these other characters. In fact, he makes the ultimate sacrifice towards the end and gives away his visa and to get his papers to get out of France before the invasion of Marseille. So that alone, he's a noble character through all of this, but he can never be who he is, whoever that is, or who he was. He's somebody else, and he's filling in the place. He's really upset when Driss ends up is it Marie? Not Marie. This is where I have this problem. Melissa and her son Driss leave and disappear on us, you know. So, and he's got all of this dread, and he's seeing all this death along the way, and he manages and tries to maintain some sort of element of how you describe it, normalcy, but he can't, because he's not any of the people that he portrays to be. What else can I say? Well, we can talk more about the characterization as we go. So, okay. Well, let's do this. Let's move on to the next round, which is characterization, which is a lot of that. So maybe we can segue into that. So I'm going to start again with Bill and 5BD. Go ahead and make your comments. I'm going to break from the radio here for a minute or two, so go ahead and speak, and I'll come back. If there's a long, medium silence, it's because I'm away from the radio. But Bill, go ahead, and I'm going to turn up the volume so I can hear you. Go ahead.
Thanks, Tom. This is N5BB. First, a little sad comment. The author, whose the name she used was Anna Seghers. She was actually born Anna Reiling. But Anna Seghers was Jewish, and she wrote this in 1944, and she had escaped from Marseille to Mexico before as the Germans were in France. So a lot of this, I'm sure, was from her personal experience because of that. So as far as characterizations, one of the interesting ones was Marie Weidel. We first see her as this enigmatic character that's kind of flitting around. George sees her, and what happens at some point is she comes up to him and touches him on the shoulder, and he looks around, and then she runs off. And this occurs more than once, and she's running back. She's always kind of moving back and forth. You see her shoes, her feet at one point. She's always moving back and forth, looking for her husband. Now, George knows, well, he doesn't know who she is at first. He just sees this woman running around. But later, he, looking for a doctor for the boy, Driss, he happens to find Richard, and Marie is staying with Richard. So he finds Marie there just accidentally. As somebody said, I think Brenda, there's these accidents in this. Just happens to find her. And for some reason, even though George kind of suggests to Marie that her husband is dead, he has papers from her husband. He has the last thing he wrote. He has things he could prove to her, more or less, kind of, that he's dead. But he doesn't. And, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if he doesn't want to disappoint her, or whether he has a romantic interest in her, which he seems to near the end. But this is kind of an enigmatic part of the movie, is that he has these things from her husband that he originally was going to deliver it to her, and he doesn't. So that's kind of strange. As mentioned earlier, the protagonist, George, no last name, I guess, just George. He seems to be doing pretty much good deeds through this. I mean, he's doing some things for himself. He's doing a lot of things for others. He's kind of an observer, seeing what's happening. One interesting thing about this is when he goes to these places with all these refugees, everybody's telling their story. Everybody's telling their story. And they comment on this. Everybody tells their story. So this is kind of an interesting thing with these refugees. They all have a story, and they're all telling it, which is kind of part of the characterization of all of this. This is Inside BB. Everybody's a refugee. Everybody is trying to get away, and they're not being very successful. I think a lot of the characterization acting were rather good. I really liked the boy Driss and his mother Melissa, who were illegal refugees there, and Melissa, that was deaf and dumb, she could not speak or hear. I like that characterization, her and her son, and what happened there. But then you have the mysterious thing of they just disappeared. But that's what happens in this. I mean, people did just disappear. So that's what makes this movie so enigmatic, is you see these things happen that were kind of sudden and unexpected and shocking, and that's what happened back then. That's the reason they wrote it that way. I thought the woman with the two dogs was she was really interesting. She wanted to have a meal with him. In fact, at one point she said that she had run out of money trying to take care of that woman's dogs, and she wanted him to buy her a meal. At another point, she wanted to have a meal with George just because she didn't want to be alone. And then they go there to that overhang, and then she commits suicide. But that was we don't know much about her backstory, but she was a very unhappy woman. Nobody, I mean, other than maybe the councils, the Mexican-American councils, conductors, the barkeeper, narrator, I guess they're reasonably happy, but nobody else is a happy character. The character of Richard, the doctor, was also interesting because he was trying to get to another location to start a hospital, and he had difficulty doing that, and got kicked off the ship at the last moment, etc., etc. The ending of the movie is also rather odd because George finds out that the ship Montreal had hit a mine and gone down with no survivors. And the person at the office thought that Marie was on the ship. But George seemed to see Marie. He seemed to see her later, running around. He thought he saw her. So, some of this characterization was thinking you saw somebody that you knew, and you weren't sure if it was them or not. All these people moving around, and are you somebody I knew, or am I mistaking you for somebody else? So anyway, that's the whole reason for this movie, is all these ideas and concepts and characterizations and feelings. It's not really actions. I guess that's what I have on characterizations. That's all this movie is, if you ask me, is characterizations. Inside BB.
Interesting. Thank you, Bill. And I think you're right. That's what this whole movie is about, human motivations and feelings. Okay, well, let me jump down to Brenda. Your thoughts on characterization. WB50ZL from KE5ICX. WB50ZL, you're up.
Oh, this is WB50ZL. Sorry, I have dozed off. But it's late and I'm tired, and I work today, so it's been kind of a long day. The characters were not very likable, and I didn't really identify with them very much. I didn't think the dialogue was particularly entertaining, and I wasn't really sure about their motivations in many cases. I wasn't sure exactly what they were up to or what they wanted or anything. They just weren't very believable to me. I'll just say that. And I'll leave it there. This is WB50ZL.
Okay, well, let's see. I'm gonna tap Bill again. W5CLT. Bill, you got anything you want to add from KE5ICX?
Yeah, again, this goes back to watching the film festival with the interview on the director, and talking about the mom that was mute, and I think deaf as well. The boy wanted to be a child, but also had to be an adult and help his mom. And I think so often sometimes in war times or children's childhoods are robbed from them, and so that is talking about characterization for this the one boy that was shown in the movie, and so I found that interesting. I don't know how the wife didn't recognize that it wasn't her husband. So that part was unclear to me, even reading the review. And I don't know if it was unclear in the movie when watching it even with subtitles. I did try to get the subtitles to read, but it just could not keep up. And I was trying to swipe with my screen reader to keep up with them. And we all know how that works after I sent all the ghost emojis last night. But anyway, so I think that the characters, I didn't, in all the reviews I read, I didn't read anybody that said the acting and the characters were out of place or the actors didn't do a good job. I couldn't find anybody that said that. And, so I will throw that in as well. Back to you, Tom, W5BLT.
All right, thank you, Bill. This is a difficult film to watch, and of course there is the time period and when these people acted the way they did under extraordinary circumstances. The author obviously was well aware of these things because they lived through them and wrote about them. In fact, there's a reference to that in the story itself. And that who wants to tell a story about war and hate and all the things that go along with it? And he said, well, that's what authors do, isn't it? And he explains back, even though he's not the author or the writer, he says, I'm tired of that. Everything is an essay. Everything is something I've got to do. He dismisses it, but at the same time, he wants to reject it. He's also a political refugee as well. So I don't know. I think part of the characterization here is this, that people have hope. They always have some sort of hope or a fabricated hope, and they believe things that they know can't be true. George believes that Marie is still alive, and he mentions, and at least it's done in the voiceover from the barkeep, that she, who knows, there's always people showing up on a shoreline who are thought dead and they are actually alive, and you keep hope alive, right? Other characters that survived, or we think survived, also had images, and he helped provide that too. He provided a connective tissue to living for people, and those who didn't have it ended up dying. They ended up committing suicide or being, in some cases, whisked away because there was no hope for them, and he kept hope. And he's taking a chance by staying there in Marseille. He's willing to go with whatever happens. He throws his escape plan away in the process and decides that's more noble and lets Richard go and leave and take his papers with him instead. So, and he's got money and compensation for it, so I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he becomes Rick, at the American Cafe from Casablanca. Who knows? He's sort of that character when you get down to it, right? He's a survivor as well. I don't know. It resonates. It's interesting. People mentioned too that the acting, and I thought it was all very good. I thought everyone did well. I don't think I disliked any of the characters at all. I had sympathy and empathy for all of them. They were thrust into extraordinary circumstances, and they each handled it a little differently. Suicide is one way out of this situation. It's not anyone's favorite, but it is a method of getting through whatever the trauma is. It's a terrible thing. I don't like it. I don't think it's a good idea. But it is what it is. And you get through whatever is happening, and others become a victim of it. We don't know what happens to them. Hopefully they got away, but we're left to the enigma. We don't know. We don't know a lot of things that are going to happen at the end, but that's life, isn't it? We don't know what's going to happen in the future, particularly when the whole world's collapsing around you. It's how you respond and act, and whose people are there that will help you. It's a character play. It's emotions against each other, and I guess that's probably the best way to read it at this point, is the characters survive, and the memories survive of those characters with the people who are there. So I don't know. I think it was interesting. I don't know if I'd watch it again either. It was a bit tough, but it was still interesting. I think. They thought it was good, so I'll give them that. So I think the folks did find it worthwhile. I did too. It's not my favorite kind of movie, but you know, I think it went okay. It did its job, as they say. All right, well, we've got a lot of time. This round, what I'm going to do is, this is the technical aspect of the film. If you want to discuss that, we will. And I will cut down the complete list, and people who are still out there listening who did check in, I'll give you a chance to speak. What do you think of the story? Is there anything that you have seen that just reminds you of, or maybe a World War II or a film, the likes of which would be like Casablanca or something? This comes very close to how Casablanca would play out present day of sorts. That kind of a story, and everybody's seen that film. What do you think? So I'll begin at the top. I'll start with Bill. You're at the very beginning. So technical aspects of the film, or anything you want to talk about from KE5.
Okay, Tom. This is N5BB. The filming, the photography, cinematography seemed fine to me. The scenes, I didn't notice any problem with any of those kind of things. It's again kind of weird, because it's this film that's set in the recent past, but it doesn't look like the recent past because there's no cell phones or computers and a few things like that. But essentially everything that other than that, everything seemed just fine to me. The sound seemed fine. I don't believe there was any music. He did sing a little song at one point, kind of. So the production values, I think, were fine as far as I was concerned. I was happy with all that. I think that I was happy with the directing and the editing of it. I wasn't bored at any parts of the movie. Again, it was a complex plot, but I didn't really get confused. You just had to pay attention. So I was okay with the editing. I didn't see any complex or weird editing or shifts that were not obvious what's happening. So all of that I thought was just fine. So I didn't have any trouble with any of that. So I guess I've left with nothing to talk about. An interesting movie, but in some senses a psychological movie, but not not what you call psychological the way some of them are. This is one kind of based on loss and people that are thrown into difficult situations. People trying to hold their life together when the world around them is crumbling, I guess. Anyway, that's all I got, I guess. Inside BB. Can't think of anything else to say, Tom.
All right, thank you, Bill. And I think you did a really great job. You brought a lot of good comments tonight. This is one of the easier movies we've done. I think you provided some really good comments. So your job is done. You did everything you're supposed to. All right, well, next will be Tony, NT5TM. Tony, what do you think? Is this one you're going to watch, or do you have any comments at all about, I don't know, anything you want to talk about from KE5? Tony, if I hit the gun hit the pedal too fast. Virginia, NV5F, you have any comments you want to make for the net tonight? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Well, the few of you who have seen the film, at least have put some thought into talking about it. Both bills, I appreciate the time spent in understanding the movie. Tom, you always have some good overarching things just about the story and stuff in general. And Brenda's forthrightness is always appreciated. I am not likely to see this when I am at a place in my life where I need things to be as uplifting and just as uplifting as possible. So I'm not really likely to watch this one. Despite the fact that it's apparent that it's not just, a complete and total, thing devoid of story or interest. I'm just not at a place where I feel interested myself. So, but I appreciate all the work everybody else has done here tonight in illuminating this film a little bit. And hope everyone has a good night and a good rest of your weekend. Back to net in V5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Yeah, I hear you. There are the whole point of movies is to change our view of something, to give us an emotional high or low or something. And if you're at a point where you just don't feel like it's something that's dire and dread, which this one has a lot of, you don't have to watch it, nor should you probably. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I've had plenty of times when I felt that way and didn't want to see the darn thing. So I get it. Next up is Brian, K9AHO. Brian, you got comments for us tonight? Please go ahead if you're out there.
This is K9AHO. Thank you all very much for the commentary that you've shared thus far. I have to say that what Virginia just said is something I identify with. I'm very empathetic in general, and so whatever I watch, I tend to immerse myself in to the point that I'm almost feeling like that character. And I think that if it is, characters that are dealing with things like suicide and so forth. That would stay with me for such a long time, and I'm not sure I'd want to pay that price. But yeah, it sounds like it's a very good movie, with a lot of interesting character development, a good storyline. I am interested in World War II and some of the things that happened there, but it's a very sad time, and sometimes you just really seek out the positive. Anyway, Virginia, thank you very much for saying that, and I'll go ahead and hand it back. K9AHO.
Very good. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for your comments. Next up is Brenda, WD5OZL. Brenda, parting comments. You can talk about technical aspect or anything you want. Go right ahead from KD5I6.
WB5OZL. Not too much on technical aspects. To me, there's just nothing to talk about here, hardly. You don't get the feel of it being a period piece like so many movies are. The 70s, you just feel really immersed in the time. This one you didn't. You almost didn't, unless, except that they were constantly telling you the war is on. You might not have known from the settings and the clothing and everything. Yeah, I feel great empathy for these people. This poor guy, he witnessed so many deaths and suicides and separation and loss. You just kind of wonder how he can go on. But it's that way a lot in the war. You hear these awful stories about people losing their entire families in the Holocaust, and you just wonder how they can bear it. It was a horrible, horrible thing, and people running for their lives with nothing except what they're wearing. It's hard for me to imagine that kind of existence where you just have to run and leave everything and everybody and lose so many people. It's just, I think in some ways that this movie did kind of capture that feeling of what's it like to have so much loss. And these people were kind of depressed. So in that way, the movie succeeded, I think. It gave you a feeling of loss and depression and but still somehow carrying on despite it all. All right, that's all I got. WB5OZL. Back to net.
This evening. Next up is Bill, W5DLC. Bill, your final comment. Please go ahead.
Well, one thing that I will say, growing up as a blind child, I was very much into the CB radio and then getting into ham radio. And just by what people say on the CB stuff, the friends that I had on the CB were very encouraging to me to get into amateur radio. I know sometimes there's always a weird kind of feud between the groups, but I was fortunate enough to have a lot of guys who were friends. They were truck drivers and other kind of what you would consider blue-collar guys. Maybe a little rough around the edges, but they had served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, and shared their stories with me. And one in particular from World War II shared his story and really kind of opened up. And he didn't even share a lot of the stuff that he shared with me to his wife, and said he hadn't talked about it And he told me about going into the camps and being in one of the first in to liberate the camps. Also had fought in the Battle of the Bulge, and so a lot of interesting stories that he told me one day, and it was for a history project, and I'd asked him if I could interview him. This guy was a real tough guy, rough guy, but he was loyal. He'd be your friend, but not someone you'd want to cross. But Ward obviously changed him, but I saw him just break down and cry. And when he talked about the camps and things that went on, and not to be depressing, but I say this to say the human spirit, he loved his wife, his family, and would do anything he could for anyone. And so the people that came out of that time period, the Depression, about World War II, and I think anything in those wars, those guys are changed. And so for me, growing up as a kid, and even in college, some of the guys that had served would look out for me, and so I'm indebted for that. And where I'm going with this is, when you talk about the movies and talk about this main character, I think that this movie kind of brings that back in the way, when he's given up his papers and stuff. So it kind of reminded me of all that. So I'll just stop there. But I think that while this movie can be hard to watch, it's also, I think we get an idea of the human spirit to try to do what we can to live and to win against evil. So that's all I got. W5BLT.
All right, thank you, Bill. Thanks for your comments this evening. I appreciate it. You made this work for you and for us, too. So I'll try and be a little more selective on the films. I try and keep arm's length on motion pictures because I don't want to spoil it for me either. I want to be able to see the film and enjoy it. And if I read too much about it, then I lose the surprise element and the novelty of it. But sometimes you need to do some basic footwork on it, such as the foreign film and subtitles and links and all of that. So I need to put a little list together of the qualifiers for it. But you did admirably this evening, and is most appreciated. Okay, next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, you didn't get to say much tonight because you didn't get to see movies, so, but open mic, go ahead. Anything you want to talk about, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, first of all, I'll just say I appreciate all of you that watched it, and it's very insightful about what the movie was about. It sounds like, this is, very emotional, depressing movie, but it does tell kind of a story of, that time frame. Those are important stories for people to know, so I can appreciate that. Yeah, I don't think I will watch this one, just, for one, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge into military movies in particular. I enjoy some military history, some documentaries, but typically I'm not really into the war stories themselves. And then two, with the subtitles makes it a little more challenging even yet, just because a lot of times those things are tough to read, especially when they're outside, stuff gets blown out, and it can be, kind of tough to follow. So it typically takes a pretty special movie for me to take the time, because and then on top of that stuff, it's small. My vision's, not the best either. I mean, I can legally drive, but it's I gotta get real close to the television when I watch these subtitles. So yeah, I'll probably pass on this one. But it does sound kind of interesting. You know, I did actually dig around when everybody was talking and tried to find a dubbed version, and wasn't able to, because it does sound like it may be somewhat interesting. But then the depressing side of it too, I'm not sure that I would want to watch it for that reason either. Haven't had any suicides in the family, but unfortunately I've lost a lot of family members in the last 2 years. So the last sad movie I watched really upset me a few weeks ago. So I probably would go pass on this one for multiple reasons. But enjoyed listening to everybody's talk about it, though, as always. So anyway, that's all I got. Back to that, KB9SOK.
All right, Sean, thank you, and thank you for your contributions this evening. Is anyone out there who wants to either check in or have any final comments, please come to your call now.
W5BLT.
Hey, Bill, go ahead.
Well, I need to somehow work in a 2001, even though when we really didn't have that in it. I told you all today on the chat group, number one, don't feel bad on my account. It did remind me of the time, and my dad didn't realize this because he didn't look at the reviews either, but we went and saw the Caveman movie that Ringo Starr did. There's one word in it, and the lightning hits the tree. You hear kind of the 2001 scene, beginning, opening, and they all go fire. That was the only word I understood of the movie, but my dad and I got lots of mileage out of that. So, anyway, I tried to work in something there to keep our streak going for the 2001 references. W5BLT.
Okay, Bill. Thank you. Yeah, I saw that comment earlier today. Okay, well, here we go. I was going down the list of films, and as you would expect, films come and go on the free streaming circuit. So several ones that I wanted to put out for next week as A, B, and C list aren't there anymore. They disappear quickly. They show up for a couple of weeks at a time and disappear. So I go through and I actually sit in front of the TV and use one of those TV streaming fobs and go through the popular streaming services to find out what's there. And then I go ahead and flip on it to see if and get a description and all that. And then I put the link in so that I can use it later on. Unfortunately, some of those links get old, meaning more than a week old, and then they don't work anymore. So the long and short of it is that I had to find one that worked that was in my list. And I did find one. I'm not sure how good this is. This is about a gaming thing. It had a box office take, are you ready for this, in the thousands of dollars. It made a little over $10,000 in the theaters. I know you're thinking it's got to be terrible. Well, I don't see anything that says it's terrible. It just says it looked dated when it came out. So we'll just have to see. The film was made for under $2 million, it says. But I will check it and double check it and make sure that that's the one. But the film is called Beta Test. There's another one called The Beta Test. That's a different movie entirely. This one's Beta Test from 2016, I believe. There's a fight scene that's supposed to be fairly entertaining in it. So I'm looking. There is a review here that I'll look through from Hollywood Reporter from that time period. So that'll be the film. I'll send out all that info tomorrow morning. And if anyone else is out there listening that wants to be put on the list for the movie links and stuff like that, just send an email to me at my call sign, which is KE5ICX Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray at yahoo.com. I'll put you on the list with everybody else. And then you'll get the same thing everybody else gets Sunday morning, telling you what the movie is and a slightly unbelievable synopsis of what the film is about. With that, I'm going to say good night. We ended a little early, only 7 minutes. I was surprised. I figured it was going to be a lot shorter because of our venue and the material, but as it turned out, it worked out okay. So we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat station. Maybe I'll watch Lost in Space. That's, by the way, back rotating on MeTV in the first season. They are now finishing up with the last of the 6 good, really great episodes of the series. I think it's Welcome Stranger tonight, which is the very beginning of the fall of Lost in Space as far as anything serious. But it... I say 7-3 to everybody. Have a good evening. This is KE5ICX. Now clear. Thanks all.